Are you excited to try watercolors but not sure where or how to start? Well, you've come to the right place. Through this series of beginner watercolor exercises, I want to help you build confidence. In this video, we will learn about creating textures in our watercolor paintings. Hi there, I'm Audrey, your watercolor bestie, and welcome to my studio. If you like this video and want to start your watercolor journey, I have a free course, Watercolor Basics for the Absolute Beginner, and you can sign up using the link in the description below. Before we get started, let's discuss our supplies. I'm using my LUKAS brand. Oh, that's my cat in the background. I don't know if you can see him. His name is Aslan. Anyway, so I'm going to be using the LUKAS brand watercolor paints, and I love these because they're artist grade quality for student grade prices. Going to use primarily the round size 6 brush, and this is the Creative Mark brand, also from Jerry's Artarama. I'm using Canson brand cold press watercolor paper that I just cut into squares. And because today's video is about textures, I have a couple extra supplies like saran wrap. You can use a plastic bag, Ziploc bag, whatever you have. I also have some coarse salt and some rubbing alcohol. Let's talk about splatter. I love adding splatters to my paintings because it adds that little bit of whimsy and character. Like these crystal paintings look more interesting with splatter. And for these snowscapes, I splattered a white opaque medium to represent snow. And so there are a few ways you can add splatter. You can use an old toothbrush and simply run your finger along the bristles. And this method will create a very fine splatter with lots of tiny little droplets. Or you can use a loaded brush and flick or tap it against your finger or another brush. This method will create splatter of different sizes and value depending on how far you are from your paper and how watery your paint is, etc. So play around with that. Lastly, you can also use a straw to create different kinds of splatters and blotches. With this, you can either create a very wet painted area and then blow, or as you're painting and you find very wet areas, you can just blow the beaded paint in different directions. So try any or all of these methods to discover for yourself what you like. If you're a fan of texture in your paintings, you've got to try salt. When you add salt to a damp area, it essentially soaks up the water and pushes the pigment away, creating a unique effect. Different salt will give you different results, which I can explore maybe in a later video. But for now, I just have coarse Himalayan salt. So I like to add my salt in right away as I'm painting. So I'm just going to create a very wet area. And then just sprinkle my salt in. So you can already kind of start to see that, it's sort of pushing the pigment away. It's kind of concentrated like right where the salts are. So the cool thing about this is that if you want, you can go back in there and add some more. So you're essentially doing the wet on wet effect, right? So you can just add some more pigment wherever you want, and then it'll just kind of, go around the salt crystals. So once this is dry, then you can just kind of lightly, gently rub the salt off your paper. All right, alcohol is another option for showing some cool effects. I just have some rubbing alcohol in here, and I couldn't find my little pipettes. So I'm just gonna dip my finger into it and then just kind of tap some drops off of my finger. But kind of like the salt technique, you want to start off with a wet painted area. I'm just going to drop some alcohol. You can already start to see it taking effect. Basically, it's pulling some pigments in, pushing some pigments out, and creating like concentric circles and rings. If you're a biology major, it kind of looks like cells. All right, the last one that we'll look at is using plastic. And I just have a small piece of saran wrap here. And again, starting the same exact way with a wet painted area. And I'm just going to kind of like squish it onto different spots. And I'm just gonna let it just kind of just sit there, okay? Because what's gonna happen is it's going to dry around the area where it was pressed down, and then it'll create some really dark lines where it was kind of pushed in. Okay, let's go back to this salt one. It's kind of drying nicely. So I'm just gonna just gently kind of knock off some of the salt. Now I have some blue salt. So what's cool is that what you can see is, oh, some of that was still wet. It kind of created some bloom effects. So you can use this for, you know, landscapes, definitely. Like I said, I use this in my snowscapes. You could even leave the salt on there if you want to make your painting multimedia. Here's the one with the alcohol. It's drying a little bit more. Now, I've never actually used alcohol in my paintings, so this is just cool, but I don't personally use it. But if you do, leave a comment below and let me know. I'd love to know how you use it and what you've painted with it. I would also be curious to see how the alcohol kind of works with liquid watercolors. So yeah, I'm just more curious. Okay, and then I don't think this is completely dry, but let me go ahead and remove the plastic and just kind of see what we have. Ooh, yeah, see, look at that. I think that using these kinds of techniques really forces you to let go of perfectionism, right? Because you don't know really how it's going to turn out. Even like with the plastic, I was just kind of smooshing, you know, whatever corners and whatever I felt like. And you can't really control plastic wrap. It's very difficult to maneuver. So yeah, I had no idea how it was going to turn out. But looking at this, like, I love the different values that kind of came out. The paint got lifted in some areas and yet it got deposited in other areas. Yeah, it looks very abstract and I really like it. Well, thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. Remember to have fun with these techniques, especially things like splatter and textures. Half the fun with watercolor is literally going with the flow and observing what happens. This is part 6 of this series, so if you didn't watch 1 through 5, make sure to catch those. And if you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment down below and share about your experience with these techniques. Happy painting!